Catus, Maximus here. Don't run into much of the Montgomery Ward Powr-Kraft hand tools, although they were definitely pretty decent. I did manage to get a half-inch drive Powr-Kraft speed wrench. Made a video about that a few days ago. And 3 random ignition wrenches. Ignition wrenches are just simply really tiny, double-ended open box ends, different sizes on each side. As per usual with the Powr-Kraft, no made in USA. It's a little odd because a lot of Powr-Kraft's hand tools were made by Indestro and Eastco and New Britain, depending on the tool. And they were easily on par, maybe even sometimes better than Craftsman, but they were one of the better of the department store hand tools. Better than the JCPenney, except for the nice JCPenney screwdrivers. Anyway, pretty nice polish on these. Single piece forged, which is nice for little wrenches. If I'm looking at the broaching here, it actually seems to be reasonably well centered. That's one of the biggest, even with the Craftsman. This one you can see that jaw is just oddly thicker than this one, so that broaching on the 7/32 wasn't perfectly centered. But I bought like the Craftsman USA's originally, 20 years ago, 25 years ago when we saw it at Sears. And I remember I had to go through like 2 or 3 packages because even though they were US made Craftsman, so many of them just had the broaching was just horrifically, just so badly offset to where one of the jaws was super thin. You knew it was going to snap off if you ever needed it to really work for you. So ignition wrenches are for just small fasteners. They're called ignition wrenches because in the old days when you need to work on like distributors and stuff, there were some pretty small fasteners. There's 2 different styles. There'd be this style, and then there's another style where the one end, they're the same size on both ends, but one end is cantered over at about 75 degrees. These would be known as a 15-degree canter. That way you could put it on, turned the nut a little bit, flipped it around, turned it some more. Also, many sets of ignition wrenches in that you can get them both as the same size or as different sizes, but they'd be set up to where you have 2 wrenches and you would be able to have 2 of the same size, the 15-degree and the 75-degree. That way you could kind of use them both in your hand at the same time. A little bit of a funky way of doing it. Anyway, as far as getting some random ones, 2 of these are actually really handy. The 1/4 inch, I'd say even the 3/8, but the 1/4 inch and the 5/16 are some cool sizes to find because those are going to be the most common sizes, like for me, that I'd ever need a tiny little wrench for. So it's kind of nice to have some spares. And as far as the stamping, I mean, they did a pretty decent job. This is a tiny little wrench, a little 7/32 end, and they still got a nice little stamp out of the Powr-Kraft. So that's my little 3-minute little video about these Powr-Kraft ignition wrenches. It would have been cool to find a whole set. Who knows how many pieces it would have been. I tried searching around and couldn't really figure out whether these came as 5 or 6 or 7-piece sets. And quite frankly, once again, when it comes to hand tools, versus like old electronics, a huge percentage of old hand tools are still around. They're just tools. They're seen as useful, and so when one person sells them or donates them, etc., there's always seems to be somebody like me who comes around and picks them up. And besides Craftsman, because Sears sold the tar out of Craftsman tools, so many other old school brands, they're not a dime a dozen like the Craftsman. So I'm always kind of stoked to find different stuff. In this case, some Powr-Kraft ignition wrenches. Anyway, thanks for watching.